Chapter 5. Sharing is Caring. The horse rider rounded the tree line, emerging into a clearing with a small clear pond in the middle. The brown parcel bag at her side shook softly, and she brushed her autumn red-colored hair out of her face. "Quiet, little one, not too far now," she says to the parcel softly, dismounting from her horse and taking a few strides towards the blue pond. Sharon thought back to her days as a young girl. The old forest kingdom of Alxis felt far away now, but she always held a piece of home with her in her heart. Running through the tall trees with her friends and helping her mom retrieve water from the local well. The memories flooded back to her for a moment, leaving her breathless and in need for a minute to think. "Not far to Resistance Outpost now," Sharon says quietly to herself, aptly mounting the large brown broodmare and giving the tassels a quick but hard snap. Sharon trotted the horse through the dense forest, hearing birds and vermin rustle around her. The red flag of Outpost flew proudly above the forest top, and a wave of relief passed over Sharon, and she pulled the broodmare towards the main gate. "Halt and state your business," a gruff voice yelled out from a small thatch hut next to the main gate. "Delivery for the Resistance," Sharon replies. "Enter, but do take care to follow the law," the man in the hut tells Sharon as she enters. The outpost? Strange sounds and smells greeted her as she entered Outpost, her broodmare following behind patiently. "Need to find Grandmaster." Sharon whispers to herself, noticing the sharp gazes towards her direction from the stall merchants, whom were working tirelessly away, setting up food in their baskets to sell for the next day. Grandmaster's Hall was just up ahead, the oak and maple hall sticking out amongst the more modest wooden structures surrounding it. As she approached the hall, she was reminded of the years she spent at Outpost with the Grandmaster, studying tomes of the ancient days when dragons roamed the skies freely and peace ruled the land. Before King Danvon seized power, plunging the entire of Allegasia into chaos, Sharon grabbed the dragon head pommel on the wooden door and banged it loudly 3 times. Within seconds, her old maester appeared, gray, wispy hair and all. "Sharon?" he exclaimed, the long graying eyebrows jumping to the top of his forehead, and an expression that took years off his face. "Nice to see you too, Grandmaster," Sharon replies, brushing past her old maester and entering the well-lit hall. She was greeted by the sight of a tall, handsome stranger, a stocky man from Esrika, and more astonishingly, a baby dragon dyed crimson as blood with thin purple veins creeping across its wings. "Grandmaster, who is this?" the tall stranger asked, instinctively reaching towards the small dragon on the table as if to shield it from her view. "Bron, meet Sharon. Sharon, this is another apprentice of mine named Bron. I'm sure you two will become fast friends," Grandmaster says jovially, unaware of the awkwardness in the room, tugging at the wiry mustache on his lip. "Jace, this is Sharon. Sharon, meet Jace, chief of the kingdom of Esrika and currently a missionary from there." Jace gives a quick head nod as a greeting. "Grandmaster, are you sure it's a good idea she's here?" the hatch, Bron says, instinctively guarding Bristle with his body. "Yes, Bron, we can trust her. Believe me, I know there are plenty of enemies in the kingdom, but Sharon is an elf I know we can trust." Grandmaster quickly cuts Bron off, leaving his former student with a disgruntled look on his face. "Bron and Jace, was it? Yes, you may trust me. More importantly, I have something you both should see." Sharon reaches into the brown parcel bag at her waist, gently hoisting from its folds a sage-green egg with golden wiry veins protruding from its shell. Bron and the Grandmaster both gasp. The Grandmaster clutching the wooden necklace around his neck and exclaims, "By the 5, Sharon! Where did you find this?" Meanwhile, the crimson hatchling with purple veins stretches his nose out, gingerly sniffing the green egg with some curiosity. The elves have more secrets than humankind knows, Sharon replies cryptically. And we don't. Her words are cut off as the world around her cuts to black. Sharon suddenly flying through a kaleidoscope of green and gold colors towards a bright white light. She looks around in amazement and hurtles through the white light into a small forest clearing. Waiting for her there is a magnificent green-scaled dragon with golden veined wings and golden horns protruding down his spine. Greetings, Sharon, a voice speaks in Sharon's head. How did you do that? She breathlessly asks. We have a bond now, Sharon, one that will never be broken. The sage-colored dragon replies. And how did we make this bond? Sharon asks. A dragon chooses its tamer, Sharon, and I have chosen you, special one. Incredible, she says, but before she can say another word, this reality was ripped from before her eyes, and she awoke on the warm wooden floor of the Grand Maester's hall. Elf, speak to us about what just happened, Jace asks, his curved sword and shield glistening on the wooden table nearby. The dragon just spoke to me, Sharon says. Suddenly, a sharp pain in Sharon's head, and another bright white flash of light fills the Grand Maester's hall, leaving in its wake a small sage-green dragon with golden veined wings. Hi, Sharon, a high-pitched voice says in her head. 2 dragons in one day, this has to be some kind of record, Bron says as Bristle curls up on his shoulder, sparks coming out of his nose as he snores quietly with his eyes closed, as she snores quietly with her eyes closed. True, I think this might be it for a while, though, Sharon says. True, I think this might be it for a while, though, Sharon says, a thorn branch tattoo already appearing all over her left arm. I'll call you Emeraldo, Sharon says as he climbs up Sharon's arm and also perches himself on Sharon's shoulder. Bristle the dragoness and Emeraldo the dragon. By the 5, it's like we've entered the ancient times again. Grandmaster says, astonished, sinking back into his modest oak chair. Suddenly, 3 loud knocks on the door prise everyone's attention towards the maple door at the front of the hall, and a voice rings out. King Danfon sent more men. They're gathered at the front gate and say they're here for the king's stolen treasure. Phil's deep voice can be heard through the thick wooden door, spreading him from the other party. Looks like the king is not going to forget this slight very easily, Jace says to the gathered group, picking up his sword and shield, and leading the small group out into the open. Chapter 6. Assault on Outpost. The group of men and elf walked swiftly towards the main gate, already seeing the decent-sized host gathered outside the walls. As they reached the outpost gate, a nasally voice bounced off the water. Return the king's treasure now, or suffer the consequences. A short man with a rodent-like face yelled out, leading a host of 7 knights, all dressed in chainmail armor. We will lose our lives before such a day comes, Bron shouted back, as Jace readied his sword and shield. Phil lifted his longbow, and Sharon, with her dragon Emeraldo, set their face with angry expressions. All right, I'll teleport us to the top of the wall, and we can begin our attack from there, Grandmaster says, a teleportation spell in his right hand. Jace, Phil, and Bron and Sharon all grab hold of a different part of the Grandmaster, and instantaneously they are teleported to the top of the wall. All right, good, we're here. Time to begin our assault, Jace says, taking out his bow and drawing an arrow. Sounds like a plan, Jace. We'll cover you 3 while you begin the attack on the king's host. Phil also eagerly drew an arrow into his bow. All right, I ain't got much magic left, so this will be the last teleportation spell. Better make it count, Grandmaster says, teleporting himself, Sharon, and Bron to about 20 yards away from the king's host. Arrows rain down on the king's host from above, thanks to Jason Aragorn. Thanks to Jason Aragorn. Thanks to Jace and Aragorn. Bristle, fly back to the Grand Master's Hall, Bronn says. You too, Emeraldo, Sharon says to her dragon. The green and red dragon hatchlings both take flight from their riders' shoulders and head back towards the Grand Master's Hall. The Grand Maester begins sending bolts of lightning from his hands towards the Ratman's knights, killing 2 instantly. There were still 6 left, though, meaning they were grossly outnumbered. Sharon unsheathed a short sword from the scabbard at her side and moved swiftly and nimbly towards the Ratman's host. Bronn took out his sword midnight and brandished it towards the men-at-arms. Kill them! The Ratman yelled at his remaining knights, and they all charged towards the trio. The 2 parties engaged in a bloody first strike, both Bronn and Sharon taking slices to their forearms. They managed to take another 2 knights out, thoughtfully executing them. The remaining knights began to get scared expressions on their face, and they turned and began to run. Not before more arrows from Jason Aragorn tore through them, taking another 2 of them out. The Ratman looked around in horror as at the destruction wrought from this group of nobodies. No, this can't be happening. His sentence was cut off, though, as the Grand Maester launched a fireball right at his head that charred him from the neck up, the rest of his body falling to the ground unceremoniously. We did it, Sharon! We did it, Sharon! Bronn yells to the elf, and to the 2 quickly hug. Seeming to realize what they're doing, quickly break apart, both of their faces the color of bristle. Oh, yes, good job, Bronn, Sharon says coyly. That's 2 attacks from the king we've repelled now. The resistance might actually stand a chance at defeating King Danfon, once and for all, Grandmaster says proudly, lowering his hands to his side and letting the fire and electric magic disperse. Let's not get too cocky, Grandmaster. I have a feeling he's saving his best attack for last, Bronn says, sheathing Midnight as Sharon does the same with her short sword. All right, guys, time to return to the hall and plan our next move, Sharon says.